This past weekend in Birmingham, England, the 2026 Birmingham Pokémon Go Regional Championships were held. Trainers flew in from all across Europe to vie for the crown of Birmingham Regional Champion. But when the dust settled at the end of a ferocious weekend of battling, for the second weekend in a row, a trainer won their first regional championship, and they did it with a Pokemon that had never won before. Last weekend, DHC United got the first ever regional win for Shadow Gyarados. This weekend, it was Maximilian P claiming not only his first regional win, but the first ever regional win for Jellicent. The pairing of Jellicent and Shadow Annihilate were a nightmare for trainers to deal with all weekend, as this duo was just absolutely unstoppable. We pick up Maxi's story in the losers finals against C. Leonardo, the trainer who actually sent him to the loser side of the bracket. C. Leonardo is running Credilli, Shadow Charjabug, Guzzlord, Furret, Azumarill, and Shadow Kanto Marowak. The battlers lock in for game number 1 of this best of 5 series. It's Shadow Marowak for C. Leonardo into the Wigglytuff for Maxi. Marowak is going to have a pretty significant pacing advantage in this matchup, but Wigglytuff is able to absorb this Bone Club damage and doesn't have to shield. It will be able to hang on and fire off an Icy Wind. An Icy Wind will deal some pretty devastating damage to Marowak. Wigglytuff overfarming, trying to go for the CMP tie, but Marowak is not going to go for it. C. Leonardo going to put up the shield. Looks like C. Leonardo is going to go for a full farm down, exiting debuffed on the Marowak, but with a ton of energy. Maxi sends in his own Marowak, and he has a very clear strategy in mind. C. Leonardo's team has 0 Pokemon that beat a Shadow Annihilate that is up a shield. So his plan is pretty simple. He's just going to be using the Wigglytuff and the Marowak as damage sponges, and the moment Credilli hits the field, it's time for Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate is going to be answered with the Shadow Charjabug. These Shadow Volt switches do some pretty severe damage. However, Charjabug's downfall is going to be the shield deficit. Unfortunately, Charjabug needs 2 shields to hide behind for this endgame, and it only has 1. It shields up the first Rage Fist, knowing that if it no shields, it's just getting countered down. But Annihilate is already at Rage Fist number 2. Annihilate wins charge attack priority over the Shadow Charjabug, and there's no way Charjabug is surviving. Rage Fist lands, Charjabug gets KO'd, back in comes Credilli, and Shadow Annihilate is an absolute menace. C. Leonardo stops tapping, Annihilate fully sweeps the endgame, and Maxi's up 1-0. Battlers lock in for game number 2, and the Annihilate finds Credilli once again. C. Leonardo save switches into the Marowak, but Marowak is not an amazing answer to the Annihilate. Annihilate fires off the Rage Fist immediately, throwing on good charge stack timing here. A change of strategy from Maxi, as Maxi has still brought the Wigglytuff, but now it's Steelix in the back. Marowak already at back-to-back Bone Clubs, Wigglytuff with the no shield, but a second Bone Club, or even the harder hitting Rock Slide which C. Leonardo is able to reach, will be enough to force Wigglytuff to burn a shield. Wigglytuff will get a nice farm down here and exit with energy. Icy Wind will be super effective into Credilli, but now it's Credilli's turn to go for aggressive farm. Unfortunately, the acid damage is about to be a lot less effective courtesy of this Icy Wind attack drop. Icy Wind lands onto Credilli. Can Credilli get an acid down before the next Icy Wind is reached? It's going to be close. C. Leonardo switches into Azumarill, and the bubble goes through as Wigglytuff fires off the Swift. Swift not going to do a lot of damage to that Azumarill, and in comes the Shadow Steelix. Steelix, these Thunderfangs adding up, that Swift damage landing on the Azumarill, actually really helping Maxi because it makes it a lot easier of a farm down for the Steelix. Ice Beam is going to land. Steelix is on Psychic Fangs and Crunch, which means there's no Earthquake to hit for big neutral damage. Instead, Steelix will just look to ramp up its damage more and more. Azumarill going to try and make it to the Ice Beam, getting very low. Steelix making it to the Psychic Fangs. C. Leonardo forced to burn the final shield, and this is going to be a close game. In comes Credilli. Credilli farming up, trying to get as much energy as possible, cannot let the Psychic Fangs land, and Credilli will connect with the Grass Knot. But suddenly, there's an opening. There's a move banked on the Azumarill. C. Leonardo is going to make a Grass Knot into the Annihilate, and this game actually looks winnable. C. Leonardo goes for the Rock Tomb bait. The shield comes up from Maxi. Annihilate now debuffed, but that gives Annihilate the perfect farm down to exit with the Rage Fist and win charge attack priority. For a moment, this could have come down to a catch for Maxi, but the Rock Tomb from C. Leonardo gave Annihilate the perfect farm down, and now Maxi is 1 win away from Grand Finals. Battlers lock in for game number 3. The game actually starts in progress already, and it's Annihilate into Marowak once again. Marowak putting up an early shield. Annihilate now going to have to double shield because Marowak is almost at back-to-back Bone Clubs. But Maxi says no. Maxi's going to be letting that go and sending in Wigglytuff. Aggressive pivot from C. Leonardo, going to send in the Credilli. Credilli immediately under threat here as Icy Wind is reached by the Wigglytuff. Icy Wind actually going to be shielded up by the Credilli. So Credilli putting in resources here, down 2 shields as it fires off the Rock Tomb. And Maxi is going to be letting this through. Maxi has a 2-shield Jellicent in the back, and Jellicent is an absolute terror in this meta. Unfortunately for the Jellicent, Jellicent is behind on energy. Jellicent now going to be hit with a Rock Tomb. Maxi knows it's very likely to be a Rock Tomb, but he's going to have to shield something. And with the attack drop, suddenly Shadow Ball may not be enough to knock out this Credilli. So Maxi instead is going to be firing off the Surf. Surf lands onto Credilli. He's going to go for Surf number 2, but there's C. Leonardo getting the catch onto Azumarill. This Jellicent is debuffed, but this is such a dominant matchup for the Jellicent. Jellicent would love nothing more than the ability to switch out and reset that debuff for later. Jellicent farming up more energy, now rapidly approaching 100. Play Rough comes out from the Azumarill. Maxi is going to be letting that land. He farms up back-to-back Shadow Balls, sends in the Wigglytuff, and Wigglytuff will be able to make a Swift. This is very important damage because this Swift should put the Azumarill a lot closer to Shadow Ball range. Swift is going to land onto the Azumarill. There's the switch into Credilli. C. Leonardo trying for a farm down that he will not get. All the energy goes down the drain, and now C. Leonardo has a decision. He brings in Azumarill, but Maxi waits too long. Maxi does not tap the Shadow Ball, and that means, unfortunately, this Play Rough is going to land. There's a move banked on the Marowak. He cannot afford to shield there, and now he's in trouble. Shadow Ball is going to land onto the Azumarill. Can he get the Hex down to get the win? It's going to be close. No, it's a simultaneous knockout. C. Leonardo still has the Marowak, and we're going to a game number 4. Game number 4 sees an adjustment from both trainers. C. Leonardo choosing to lead Shadow Charjabug, and Maxi brings a Pokemon that he had not yet brought to the battle. That is Altaria. Charjabug into Altaria is normally an atrociously bad matchup, but as the Shadow Charjabug, the extra damage is genuinely very beneficial. Maxi, over-farming here, bluffing a Flamethrower, but instead gonna bait with the cheaper Sky Attack and able to pull a shield away from C. Leonardo. As always for Maxi, that Shadow Annihilate in the back looks so deadly, and there's the Wigglytuff this time, which could be used to absorb energy from the Charjabug once Altaria goes down. Altaria will get KO'd, in comes Wigglytuff, and Maxi's trying to set up this Annihilate to sweep. Jellicent almost pulled off the sweep in game number 3, but not hitting that Shadow Ball in time, unfortunately ended up costing the match. But in this game number 4, this Annihilate is simply looking unbeatable. Annihilate hits the field, there's the immediate switch into the Marowak, but Annihilate is already at the Rage Fist. Rage Fist just looking to ramp up its damage more and more. Shield comes up from the Marowak. Marowak gonna try and lock in as much damage as it possibly can, because this Annihilate cannot be allowed to see the Credilli. But the Annihilate, it's so close to farming down this Marowak. Marowak at the back-to-back Bone Clubs. Bone Club is going to be shielded. C. Leonardo fires off the Bone Club on alignment, but that counter sneak means that Maxi should be able to knock out in 2 more counters. He's going to survive the Mud Slap. He's getting the farm down, and he's exiting with a boosted Ice Punch. Boosted Ice Punch is going to do big damage onto Credilli. There's the Fist Pump from Maxi. He's feeling it. Ice Punch lands. There's the switch into the Wigglytuff. The back-to-back combo play. This Icy Wind landing onto Credilli is devastating. One charm from Wigglytuff KOs Credilli, and Maxi is on to Grand Finals. Maxi's opponent in Grand Finals is Pokémon, one of the best trainers of our game. Pokémon is the reigning European International Champion and was the runner-up at the World Championships in August. Pokémon's bringing some spice as well, with Abomasnow and Shadow Fortress, not typically seen in the Pokemon Go Championship Series. However, the rest of his team, Altaria, Stunfisk, Gastrodon, Azumarill, is all pretty standard. Looking at these matchups, Maxi has a pretty massive team comp advantage. Shadow Annihilate doesn't have any hard checks on Pokémon's team, with even Altaria and Azumarill having lose cons, and the exact same with the other ghost type in Jellicent. Jellicent doesn't really have any bad matchups into Pokémon's team. Pokémon only needs to win 1 best of 5 to be crowned champion. Maxi would have to win 2. The battlers lock in game number 1 of these Grand Finals, and it's a very neutral lead matchup, Wigglytuff into Gastrodon. Maxi has brought those two ghost types in the back, Jellicent and the Shadow Annihilate, because they are just simply too strong to leave off the team of three. Gastrodon goes for the Water Pulse, that connects for big damage, and suddenly the Wigglytuff is deep into the red HP. Wigglytuff has the back-to-back Swifts, but the question is, will it get to throw it? Will this Mud Slap be enough to knock out? Swift lands onto the Gastrodon, Wigglytuff hangs on with fractional HP remaining. Patoman has to decide. Patoman puts up the shield, investing in switch advantage. In comes Jellicent, he saves the move, save switches a Stunfisk, but Stunfisk gets answered with the Shadow Annihilate. Mud Bomb comes out from the Stunfisk, no shield from the Annihilate, and in back, Patoman has Azu, which unfortunately is going to get crushed by Jellicent. Annihilate farms up past the Ice Punch, going for the Rage Fist bait. Patoman thinks about it, puts up the shield, and that is devastating for Patoman. Now these counters are boosted. He farms up just shy of the back-to-back Mud Bombs, but unfortunately the Annihilate should be one off of the boosted Rage Fist. Mud Bomb does get shielded up, Annihilate winning charge attack priority, and unfortunately for the Stunfisk, it's very bulky, but this is a boosted Rage Fist. It will not survive. Now this is a +2 Annihilate. In comes a Azumarill. Annihilate, it's going to make the Rage Fist, but no, the catch. Patoman unfortunately has to waste the Gastrodon energy, but does get the catch, nullifying that Rage Fist. Annihilate just going to stay on the field, take the +3 counters, and in comes Jellicent. Jellicent has such a dominant matchup over Azumarill, because even if Azumarill lands 2 Play Roughs, it just simply does not KO. Patoman is conceding the game at this point. He knows there's no way out, so he's not going to bother to throw energy. Instead, he can take this time to make some notes, try and strategize and regroup for this game number 2, because that game 1, the Shadow Annihilate and Jellicent duo was simply too strong into his team, and there really weren't answers. The battlers lock in for game number 2, and disaster strikes for Patoman, leading Altaria into Wigglytuff. Patoman clearly predicted an adjustment from Maxi, but Maxi just ran back the exact same team. Stunfisk safe switch for Patoman, answered by the Annihilate for Maxi, and it's Jellicent once again in the back, waiting for that Azumarill. Annihilate doesn't even have to build up to the Ice Punch here, because Annihilate knows that it can tank a Mud Bomb, shield a Mud Bomb, and always get the counter down before that third Mud Bomb is reached. This means Maxi is going to exit boosted, and that boosted energy goes everywhere into Patoman's team. This is why the Annihilate is so deadly in this matchup, because Annihilate's energy is just simply not counterable. In comes Altaria, a beautiful catch of the Ice Punch onto Azumarill, but unfortunately even that will not be enough to save Patoman, as Annihilate will look to bank a little bit of energy and send in the Jellicent. And Jellicent's matchup is just so dominant. Jellicent really doesn't have any bad matchups across the board here. Jellicent fires off Shadow Ball, shield comes up from the Azumarill, but Azumarill just can't really damage the Jellicent. Even back-to-back Play Roughs will not be enough to secure the KO. But for Maxi, this is a very safe no shield. Play Rough is going to land, Jellicent farming up, going for the Shadow Ball, trying for the CMP tie, but Azumarill is not going to fall for it. Azumarill going to put up the final shield, heavily investing in the Azumarill. There's the switch. In comes Altaria, but unfortunately switch timer's up for Maxi. Altaria going to be answered with the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff going to make the Icy Wind, but right before it gets there, Altaria launches the Sky Attack. Sky Attack into the Wigglytuff, not going to do much. Wigglytuff immediately firing off the Icy Wind, not letting Sky Attack number 2 be reached. Icy Wind is double super effective damage. That's taking the knockout. Back in comes the Azumarill. Azumarill goes for the Ice Beam, but Maxi knows that Jellicent just simply cannot lose this endgame. The no shield on the Ice Beam. Switch Clock not yet available, making it to the last second Swift. And Swift should set up this Jellicent perfectly. Swift lands into the Azu. There's the switch. There's the combo play with Jellicent. Jellicent could have gone for the Surf, but going for the Shadow Ball to guarantee the knockout. And Maxi is only one win away from resetting the bracket and forcing a second best of 5. The battlers lock in for game number 3, and it's Jellicent leading into Stunfisk. Maxi immediately safe switches into Shadow Annihilate, and Annihilate will be answered with Altaria. But we're about to see in very real time why Altaria is not considered an answer to Annihilate. Annihilate farms up to the Ice Punch, baits with the Rage Fist, gets the shield from the Altaria, and just like that, Annihilate is off to the races. Counter is resisted here, but it sure does not look it. Altaria fires off Sky Attack, shield comes up from Maxi. Maxi will look to farm up to the Ice Punch once again, and go for a second Rage Fist bait. Ice Punch would be double super effective. Patoman calls the bait, but unfortunately even calling the bait is not enough. because Pato Man is about to get ruthlessly countered down by Shadow Annihilate. Pato Man cannot allow that to happen, so he pivots in a Stun Fist just for the reveal. That's not a Wigglytuff, it's a Shadow Kanto Marowak. The team adjustment from Maxi pays dividends, as suddenly Stunfisk is not nearly as flexible as it had been in previous games. Marowak just absorbs Mud Bomb after Mud Bomb as these Mud Slaps absolutely delete its health bar. Marowak gonna look to farm up just shy of the back-to-back Bone Clubs. Pato Man does still have a shield to work with, but is not gonna use it here. Marowak will take the knockout. There's still a very low health Altaria as in comes Gastrodon. Marowak already has the Bone Club. Bone Club gonna do some pretty solid chip damage. Switch timer's up, and in comes Jellicent. And Jellicent is just a complete wall to Gastrodon's energy. What can you do as Gastro? Gastro tries for the catch, sending in the Altaria, but Maxi knows he may as well fire off energy just to pick up the KO. Shadow Ball will take the knockout. Back in comes the Gastrodon, but the damage is done. Gastrodon fires off the Water Pulse, but Maxi still has all three Pokemon alive. Gastrodon just has too much to do. The Annihilate has energy. There's still the Marowak that can survive several Mud Slaps as well. Surf will be shielded up, but the Jellicent should be able to get to Surf number 2 against this Gastrodon, and that is a 3-0 sweep for Maxi. These two ghost types, Jellicent and Shadow Annihilate, so deadly, and we get to see one final best of 5 to determine the champion. Battlers do get a bit of a break in between the Grand Finals and the Grand Finals reset. And for Pato Man, that break will be helpful. Getting swept in the first best of 5, definitely not what you hope to see, but again, this is a pretty tough team comp disadvantage for Pato Man. But for Maxi, that has to be a real confidence booster. Pato Man, one of the best players in the world. He's won 3 in a row against him, and if he wins 3 more times, he will be crowned regional champion. Battlers lock in for game number 1 of this Grand Finals reset. Shadow Annihilate for Maxi into Azumarill. This is the best case scenario lead for Pato Man. Pato Man getting the alignment that he wants. Azumarill finding its target. Annihilate banks a Rage Fist, but safe switches into the Jellicent. And what do you do as Pato Man? Pato Man's entire team loses to Jellicent. He sends in Altaria, but Altaria, even at even energy, does not win this matchup. Now this Jellicent is up a ton of energy. The Azumarill is loaded, but Jellicent is about to show why it is an absolute nightmare. Sky Attack comes out from the Altaria. No Shield comes out from the Jellicent. Jellicent still very, very healthy as it looks to overfarm and potentially threaten a knockout with Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball onto the Altaria is going to be no shielded. Shadow Ball lands. Altaria hangs on. Does it get the Sky Attack? No, it does not. And Jellicent now exits with almost another Shadow Ball already loaded. Pato Man in a bit of a tough spot. He's going to be sending in Gastrodon. Gastrodon immediately under threat from the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball shielded up by the Gastrodon. Gastro could potentially look to farm down. Maxi says no, gets aggressive, and pivots into the Shadow Annihilate. Annihilate launching Rage Fist at the Gastrodon. Gastrodon going to be no shielding. Maxi still has 2 shields for Annihilate to hide behind, so Pato has to stay in and fire off the Water Pulse to pull at least the first shield. Now Pato Man will look to pivot back into Azumarill. Azumarill banked all that energy earlier in the match, and now it gets put to good use. Shield comes up from Maxi, going from 2 shields to 0 in a split second. Maxi fires off the Rage Fist, and Rage Fist is already boosted from the Rage Fist that was thrown at the Gastrodon, so Pato Man is forced to put up the shield. Now the thing to watch for will be the counters. The counters adding up. There's a catch attempt. In comes Wigglytuff. And this is very bad news for Pato Man. Pato Man was not able to land a knockout onto the Annihilate, and now the Annihilate is very close to a move for later in the game. Play Rough lands, doing big damage to the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff trying to go for the CMB tie. Azumarill will take the extra bubble. Swift will not be enough to secure the knockout. Switch clock will be up momentarily. In comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon trying to make it to a body slam, but the Swift is reached. Maxi says no. Swift is going to be knocking out this Gastrodon. All that's left in the back is the very low health Azumarill. Azumarill is going to get charmed down, and Maxi has won 4 games in a row. Battlers get set for game number 5. Shadow Fortress into Wigglytuff. This is a great lead for Pato Man. Safe switch by Maxi, sending in Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate gonna be answered with the Altaria once again. We've seen this matchup, and it didn't go well for Altaria. Maxi goes for the bait. Pato Man with a stone cold bait call and a fist bump. Is this bait call the swing of momentum he needs to try and get his first win in this series. Shield comes up from Maxi. He knows even with the Rage Fist getting called, he can still ramp up his counter damage and make life very uncomfortable for Pokémon. Pokémon gonna be shielding up the Rage Fist. The thing to watch for will be the counters. Can Altaria hang on to make it to 2 more Sky Attacks? Sky Attack reach. Shield comes up from the Annihilate. Annihilate, it looks like we'll have to throw another Rage Fist, as Annihilate will try and get as much damage as it possibly can. Rage Fist is reached. It looks like Altaria will be fainting to 2 counters. Is Altaria 2 off or 3 off? Altaria is 3 off, but it gets damage registration error, and that means the Altaria survives. The damage does not land, and Sky Attack takes the KO. So Pokémon has 1 switch advantage. He has everything he needs, but Maxi gets a 3-hex head start on Jellicent. Everything has gone right for Pokémon in this game. 1 lead, 1 swap, and technically good alignment in the end game. And guess what? It just simply does not matter. Jellicent with the 3-hex head start is just absolutely dominant. Surf lands, Discharge lands, there's Surf number 2, and this Shadow Fortress is about to get destroyed by a Shadow Ball. Ufisk, it's just simply not surviving. Back in comes the Fortress. Even when it all goes right, there's just no way out of this matchup. Shadow Ball, devastating damage, landing onto the Fortress, and in comes Wigglytuff. Now this is a sad moment for Fortress enthusiasts, as Fortress loves to destroy Wigglytuff, but with this much of a health disparity, there's no out for Fortress. Fortress lands the Rock Tomb, Wigglytuff gets to the Swift. Maxi has now won 5 games in a row against Pokémon, and is 1 win away from being crowned regional champion. Battlers lock in for what could be the final battle of this tournament. It's Shadow Annihilate leading into Gastrodon. Maxi has again brought the Jellicent, but a Pokemon that we have not yet seen in the series makes an appearance, as it's Shadow Steelix as the 3rd. Annihilate will fire off Rage Fist into a Protect Shield from the Gastrodon. Gastrodon getting this Annihilate very, very low. Gastrodon will go for a Body Slam bait. A bit of a risky bait, but it ends up paying off as Maxi will put up the shield. Now the Gastrodon is only 1 off the move, and that forces Annihilate to throw instantly. Pokémon, is he going to be double shielding for switch? No, he lets it go. Down goes Gastrodon, in comes Stunfisk. Stunfisk looking for the Thunder Shock down. Oh my goodness, what a farm down. Pokémon has done what Maxi did to him right back in this game number 3. Maxi getting the 3-hex down in game number 2 was game winning, but now in game number 3, up energy, this Stunfisk is looking to sweep. Stunfisk will spam out Discharge after Discharge. Surf comes out from the Jellicent into the shield, but they're just getting strictly outpaced on the Jellicent. This head start from the Stunfisk is just too much. Shield comes up on the Discharge. Maxi waits the turn, tries for a catch on Steelix, and unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. Steelix now going to be met with back-to-back Mud Bombs. Mud Bomb number 1 is going to connect. Pokémon saves that energy for later, and in comes Altaria. Altaria going to be hit with the Crunch. Crunch will add up. It's a Shadow Crunch from Steelix, so Crunch will do some significant damage, but this time, no Crunch debuffs. Pokémon just trying to farm up as precise as he possibly can. Psychic Fangs now comes out from the Steelix. Pokémon needs to ensure that he will be able to outpace the Jellicent. Pokémon farms up, fires out the Flamethrower, and if he's throwing here, he feels that he's able to outpace the Jellicent and win the game. The Jellicent is pretty close to a move. It's 2 off, but look at the overfarm from Pokémon, able to outpace, and somehow, against all odds, Pokémon wins a game in this matchup and is not out of it yet. Battlers lock in for game number 4. It's Wigglytuff leading into Stunfisk. This is what Maxi wants to see. Maxi has again gone back to the Wigglytuff double ghost that has been so effective. It kind of doesn't matter what order he runs it in, but seeing Stunfisk here definitely works out well for the Wigglytuff. Mud Bomb is going to land in the back. Pokémon has 2 water types, Gastrodon and Azumarill, both of which get absolutely obliterated by Jellicent. Icy Wind lands. There's a safe switch by Pokémon, sending in the Gastrodon. Gastrodon is going to be answered with Jellicent, but this could be the opening that Pokémon needs. Pokémon has now baited out the Jellicent, setting up a Azumarill to potentially do well into the Annihilate endgame. Water Pulse lands, but it just does such little damage. Maxi knows that a Shadow Ball will not knock out here, so Maxi is going to go for the double Surf and gets a shield from Pokémon. Getting shields down is very good for Maxi. Maxi looking to farm up even more energy, going for Surf number 2, looking to really ramp up the pressure. Pokémon thinking about it, double shields, and just like that, Maxi has the potential for a 2-0 shield annihilate. Body slam fired by Pokémon, it's double resisted, but it will be knocking out that Jellicent. Maxi gonna be sending in the Wigglytuff, and we've seen this story before. Annihilate with shields is just too terrifying. Water Pulse launched by the Gastrodon. Maxi no shields. It's all up to Annihilate. In comes Annihilate, hitting the field. Gastrodon fires off what can only be a Body Slam. This is not enough energy for the Water Pulse. Is Maxi counting? You bet he is. And Maxi no shields. Body Slam is double resisted. In comes Azumarill. But wait, that Body Slam was intentional by Pokémon. Pokémon knows he's never getting to enough charge attacks to get through the shields. He's going for a farm down. And by throwing a double resisted Body Slam and trusting that Maxi would know it's double resisted no shield, he got a little bit of extra damage. Now, as Annihilate boosts up more and more, the thing to watch for is a bubble damage onto the Annihilate. Annihilate gets the counter down, but it's just so low. The Gastrodon is very low, but that is Pokémon's best source of fast move pressure. In comes the Stunfisk. Maxi will launch the Ice Punch. Ice Punch will be taking the knockout. Pokémon has to hope that he survives the counter. In comes Gastrodon. He survives the counter. And somehow, improbably, we're going to a game number 5. The battlers lock in. Stunfisk versus Shadow Annihilate. We've seen this matchup time and time again. Let's see it play out one final time. For Maxi, he's sticking with the double Ghost plus Wigglytuff. Pokémon has Gastrodon and Altaria in the back. So if Altaria sees Wigglytuff, that would be immediate game over for Pokémon. Pokémon no shields and fires off the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb no shielded by Maxi as well. Maxi knows he will get outpaced, but this farm down is just simply too good. Annihilate is always going to be shielding here. So Annihilate goes down the shield in exchange for a massive farm down. Pokémon opts out and sends in Gastrodon. Maxi gonna be immediately firing off this Rage Fist. Gastrodon puts up the shield. Maxi does not send in the Jellicent, but instead brings in Wigglytuff. And suddenly, we could have a game here. Altaria is not going to get hard countered by the Wigglytuff, but instead, we'll be going up against Jellicent, where it does have a losing matchup, but the matchup is a lot closer. Maxi sending in the Wigglytuff here covers for a potential Azumarill in the endgame, because Jellicent is by far the more flexible Mon. He doesn't know it yet, but it's Altaria, it's not Azumarill. But Jellicent will still have a winning matchup there. Gastrodon is going to make the Body Slam. Body Slam will take the knockout. This will be farm for Jellicent, but Pokémon says no, as Pokémon gets aggressive and pivots into the Altaria. Altaria only down a turn, but even on even energy, this is a losing matchup. Shield comes up on the Shadow Ball for Altaria. Altaria will immediately return fire with the Sky Attack. Maxi has to put up the shield as well. And now, all shields are down in the endgame. The Annihilate is very low. Pokémon has 2 very low Pokemon as well in the back. Sky Attack is reached by the Altaria, and Pokémon potentially catch his way out, or can one of his low health Pokemon potentially make a move? Jellicent makes the Shadow Ball. This Shadow Ball is going to be putting Altaria pretty low, but not low enough for Surf range. A Shadow Ball will be needed. In comes Stunfisk. He banks energy, sends an Annihilate, looking for a farm down, but Annihilate's counters are cut short by the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb will take the KO, but now the Stunfisk is low. Can Jellicent get the farm that it needs? Jellicent farms up a ton of energy, no discharge for Pokémon, and the game comes down to this. What does Pokémon send in? Does he go Gastrodon? Does he go Altaria? In comes Altaria, and Maxi fires off the Shadow Ball. The game comes down to this. Is a Surf available on the Jellicent? Shadow Ball takes the KO. Surf is available, as close as a Game 5 can get. And Maximilian P is the 2026 Pokemon Go Birmingham Regional Champion. In a meta where the Astonish users that used to terrorize the meta, like Shadow Dusknoir and Corsola, have been largely chased off the usage charts by Pokemon like Fern and Wigglytuff, it only makes sense that new ghost types would rise to fill that power vacancy. And in their place, Jellicent and Shadow Annihilate were an absolute terror this weekend in Birmingham. Annihilate was so strong in the series against C. Leonardo as Annihilate with a shield advantage was basically beating everything, but in that finals, it felt like Annihilate and Jellicent were really working together perfectly. The perfect balance, the yin and yang, Jellicent offering insane neutral play across the board, and Shadow Annihilate offering immense fast move pressure, whereas Jellicent was so effective at pulling away shield, how quickly it was able to spam out Surfs and Shadow Balls. Big congratulations to Maximilian P on his first ever regional championship, and for getting the first ever Pokemon Go tournament win with Jellicent. And Jellicent is a Pokemon that people feel has been pretty decent for a while, but with the Shadow Ball buff, with the Surf buff of years past, it's all come full circle. With the Hex buff of years past as well, Jellicent is finally here. Jellicent is a top meta threat, and Jellicent just won a regional championship. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Home Slice Henry, and this is More Slice Henry, my second channel where I cover content primarily covering the Pokemon Go Championship Series, but also some educational content, and in general, just some content that I want to make that I don't really feel fits on my main channel. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to support content like this, then please do like the video and subscribe to this channel if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time.